Catalytic converter replacements now average $2,500, and failure rates have climbed over 40% in the last decade as more cars age past the 100,000-mile mark. A mechanic shared a 15-minute trick that cleared my converter code completely. No parts, no shop visit, no invoice. Today, I'm walking you through exactly what I did. And the very first step tells you whether your converter can actually be saved before you waste a single minute trying. Let's get into it. Number 13. Know the difference between contamination and destruction. Before spending a single dollar on this problem, you need to understand something most mechanics will never tell you directly, because the moment you understand it, their $2,500 estimate starts looking far less inevitable. A catalytic converter efficiency code does not mean your converter is destroyed. It means the oxygen sensor behind it is reading exhaust gases that are not as clean as they should be. A physically destroyed converter needs replacement. A contaminated converter, clogged with carbon deposits from years of short trips and incomplete combustion cycles, is an entirely different situation. It can frequently be restored without replacement. Your converter works by using a ceramic honeycomb structure coated with platinum, palladium, and rhodium to chemically convert harmful exhaust gases into less harmful ones. That process requires sustained heat above 400 degrees Celsius to work properly. Short city trips, frequent cold starts, and stop-and-go commuting prevent the converter from ever reaching that temperature consistently. Over months and years, unburned compounds deposit on the honeycomb surface, insulate the substrate from the heat it needs, and progressively reduce efficiency until the downstream sensor triggers the fault code. Here is something worth understanding about the converter's internal structure that most car owners never learn. The honeycomb substrate inside your converter contains millions of tiny cells coated with those precious metals. The surface area of that coating, if you could unfold and flatten it completely, would cover the size of a football field inside a housing you can hold in two hands. When carbon deposits coat even a fraction of that surface area, the reduction in active catalyst exposure is significant. This is why contamination produces such a measurable drop in efficiency readings even when the converter looks perfectly intact from the outside. But knowing the difference between contamination and destruction is only step one. The next thing you need to do before calling any mechanic or touching any part on your car will cost you $40 and could immediately reveal whether you even have a converter problem at all. Number 12. Pull your own fault codes before talking to anyone. The single most important tool you can own as a car owner costs $20 to $40 at any auto parts store. It is an OBD2 scanner that plugs into the diagnostic port under your dashboard and reads every fault code your engine management system has stored. When your check engine light appears, pull the codes yourself before visiting any shop. Write down every code that appears. Note whether your converter efficiency code, typically P0420 or P0421, is the only code present, or whether it is accompanied by other codes pointing to different underlying problems. This information completely changes the conversation with any mechanic you speak to afterward. You are no longer walking in blind, you are walking in with data, and data protects you from unnecessary repair recommendations every single time. Beyond the immediate diagnostic value, owning an OBD2 scanner changes your entire relationship with car ownership going forward. You stop reacting to warning lights with anxiety and start responding to them with information. You know before you pull into any shop exactly what the car is telling you. You can verify after any repair that the codes have been properly cleared and have not returned before driving away. That $20 to $40 investment pays for itself the very first time you use it, and it will pay for itself many more times across the entire life of your vehicle. If this video is already saving you money before you have even tried a single repair method, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss a video like this one. Now you have your codes pulled and written down. But here is the thing most people do not realize. The codes you see sitting next to your converter code could be the entire reason your converter is struggling in the first place. And if you miss this next step, every single cleaning method on this list will fail within weeks. Number 11. Check for companion codes. Before doing anything else, a catalytic converter efficiency code that arrives alone is a very different situation from the same code arriving alongside misfire codes or fuel system fault codes. This distinction determines whether any cleaning method will actually work, and skipping this check is the reason many people clean their converters successfully only to watch the check engine light return 3 weeks later. Misfire codes, ranging from P0301 through P0308, mean unburned fuel passing through your cylinders and entering the converter continuously. That unburned fuel recontaminates the converter faster than any cleaning method can work. Fuel trim codes indicating a rich running condition do the same thing. An engine running rich is delivering more fuel than it can fully combust, and the excess fuel exits the combustion chamber unburned and travels directly into the converter. If companion codes are present, address those underlying issues first. Fix the root cause, then clean the converter. Attempting to clean a converter that is being actively recontaminated is a complete waste of time and money. One more companion code worth specifically mentioning is the evaporative emission system code, which can indicate a fuel vapor leak somewhere in the fuel system. A compromised evaporative system can deliver excess fuel vapors into the intake under certain conditions, creating a mild, rich running condition that is subtle enough not to trigger a dedicated fuel trim code, but persistent enough to gradually recontaminate a freshly cleaned converter. If you see an evaporative emission code alongside your converter efficiency code, address both before concluding your cleaning process is complete. Before you attempt any cleaning method whatsoever, there is one 5-minute inspection that could reveal your converter is already beyond saving, and skipping it means wasting hours on methods that can never work on your specific situation. Number 10. Inspect your spark plugs before touching the converter. Worn or fouled spark plugs are one of the most common causes of catalytic converter contamination, and they are one of the least expensive repairs in automotive maintenance. A spark plug that is not firing cleanly allows unburned fuel to pass into the exhaust stream on every misfiring combustion event. Over thousands of miles, that unburned fuel coats the converter substrate with carbon deposits that progressively reduce efficiency. Before attempting any converter cleaning method, remove and inspect your spark plugs. A healthy plug has a light tan or gray electrode with minimal deposit buildup. A foul plug shows heavy black carbon deposits, wet fuel residue, or a worn electrode gap that exceeds manufacturer specification. Replacing a full set of spark plugs on most 4-cylinder engines costs between $40 and $80 in parts and 1 hour of straightforward labor. If your plugs are fouled or worn, replace them first. You may find that clean combustion alone begins restoring converter efficiency without any additional treatment required beyond the highway run that follows. While you have the spark plugs out, take a few extra minutes to inspect the ignition coils and plug wires if your vehicle uses them. A coil that is firing weakly produces incomplete combustion on the same cylinder as a fouled plug, but with a different failure signature. If you find a plug that is wet with raw fuel on one end and the plug itself shows no wear or fouling on the electrode, the coil supplying that plug is a likely suspect. Ignition coils for most common vehicles cost between $30 and $80 each and are straightforward to replace without specialized tools on most engine layouts. Your plugs look good and your combustion system checks out. So why is that converter code still sitting there? The answer might have nothing to do with your converter at all, and the next test will tell you in about 5 minutes whether you have been chasing the wrong component this entire time. Number 9. Run the oxygen sensor verification test. The downstream oxygen sensor that measures converter efficiency fails at a significantly higher rate than the catalytic converter itself. When it fails, it reports inaccurate exhaust readings. The engine management system interprets those inaccurate readings as converter failure. The check engine light comes on. The dealer recommends a $2,500 replacement, and the actual problem, a $120 sensor, never gets addressed. Your OBD2 scanner can display live oxygen sensor voltage readings. A functioning downstream sensor on a healthy converter should show relatively steady, consistent voltage. If your downstream sensor shows erratic, fluctuating voltage or no response at all, the sensor is the likely failure. Replacement sensors for most vehicles cost $60 to $150 and can be installed with basic tools and an oxygen sensor socket. Confirm you are ordering the correct application-specific sensor using your vehicle identification number before purchasing. Using an incorrect sensor, even one that physically fits the thread, can generate entirely new fault codes rather than resolving the existing one. One additional detail worth knowing about downstream oxygen sensor testing. Some scanner applications display sensor data in voltage, others display it as a percentage of expected output. When you are reviewing your sensor data, a downstream sensor on a functioning converter should show relatively stable readings compared to the upstream sensor, which switches actively between rich and lean. If your downstream sensor is switching actively, like the upstream sensor, that is a clear sign the converter is not doing its job of smoothing out the exhaust gas composition. This pattern helps you distinguish between a bad sensor reading and genuine converter inefficiency. But before you spend a single dollar on any cleaning product, there is one more physical test you need to perform that takes 5 minutes and can tell you immediately whether your converter is cleanable or whether replacement is your only realistic path forward. Number 8. Perform the visual inspection and rattle test. This takes 5 minutes, requires only a flashlight, and tells you immediately whether your converter is salvageable or physically damaged beyond recovery. Attempting to clean a physically damaged converter wastes time and money, so this step belongs early in the process. With the engine cold and switched off, locate the catalytic converter under the vehicle. It sits close to the engine in a larger metal housing than the surrounding exhaust pipe. Tap the housing firmly with the flat of your hand. Listen carefully for any rattling sound from inside. A rattle means the ceramic honeycomb substrate has broken apart from overheating, impact, or age. A rattling converter cannot be cleaned. It must be replaced. If no rattle is present, use your flashlight to examine the housing exterior for dents, cracks, or blue and purple heat staining that indicates prior severe overheating. While you are under the vehicle, also inspect the oxygen sensor bung, which is the threaded port the downstream sensor screws into. Corrosion or physical damage around this bung can cause exhaust gas leaks that affect sensor readings independently of converter condition. An exhaust leak near the downstream sensor allows outside air to dilute the exhaust sample the sensor is reading, which can produce false efficiency codes even on a perfectly functional converter and a perfectly functional sensor. If you find a leak at the bung or anywhere upstream of the downstream sensor, sealing that leak should happen before any other step on this list. Now here is where most people go straight to buying products and spending money. But the very first cleaning method on this list costs absolutely nothing, and it works so well that thousands of owners never need anything else. The best part is you can do it in the next hour without buying a single thing. Number 7. The extended high-speed highway run. This method costs nothing, requires no products, and no mechanical knowledge. It is also the most commonly skipped method because it sounds too simple. That skepticism is understandable, but the physics are real and the results owners report are consistent enough to make it a mandatory first step. Your converter requires sustained high operating temperature to function efficiently. Most city and suburban driving never delivers that temperature consistently. Highway driving at 65 miles per hour or above for 30 to 45 minutes does. At those speeds, the exhaust temperatures are high enough to burn off light carbon deposits that have built up during low-speed urban use. Start from a cold engine. Drive normally for 10 minutes until fully warmed up. Then maintain steady highway speed for 30 to 45 minutes without extended idling or braking. Afterward, allow the car to cool completely, clear your fault codes, and run a full drive cycle. Many owners with mild contamination find this single step resolves the problem entirely without spending a single dollar on any product or part. The best highway segment for this purpose is one that allows sustained speed without traffic interruption. Constant speed maintains consistent exhaust temperature through the converter. Every time you brake or slow down significantly, you briefly reduce that temperature and interrupt the thermal cleaning process. If you have access to a long stretch of open highway without frequent exits or tolls, that is the ideal environment for getting the most from this method. The highway run improved your readings, but the code came back. That means the contamination is deeper than thermal cleaning alone can reach. The next method costs around $20, takes 3 minutes to execute, and attacks the deposits from a completely different chemical angle that heat alone cannot touch. Number 6. The premium fuel method. This method is overlooked almost universally because it sounds too passive to do anything meaningful. But owners with contaminated converters who switch to premium fuel for 2 to 3 full tanks consistently report measurable improvements in efficiency readings before trying any chemical cleaning products. Premium fuel burns more completely and more cleanly than regular fuel in most combustion conditions. That cleaner combustion produces fewer unburned compounds entering the exhaust stream per combustion cycle. Over 2 to 3 tanks and several thousand miles, the reduction in unburned compounds reaching the converter gives it breathing room to self-clean slightly. Through normal high-temperature operation, particularly if you are including regular highway driving during those fill-ups. This method is not a standalone solution for significant contamination, but used in combination with the highway run from method 7, it creates the cleanest possible combustion environment before introducing any chemical treatments, which meaningfully improves the effectiveness of everything that follows it on this list. The additional cost of running premium fuel for 2 to 3 tanks is typically between $10 and $20 above your normal fuel spend, which is a modest investment compared to the improvement in baseline combustion cleanliness it delivers entering the treatment phase. You have cleaned up combustion from the fuel side, but there is a specific chemical product sitting on the shelf at your auto parts store right now that works from inside the fuel system and reaches parts of the converter contamination that premium fuel alone cannot dissolve. And it has one of the highest owner-reported success rates of any product in this entire category. Number 5. The fuel additive treatment. If the highway run and premium fuel have improved but not fully resolved your efficiency readings, a dedicated catalytic converter cleaner is the next step. These products cost $20 to $30 at any auto parts store and take approximately 3 minutes to use. Look for products containing polyetheramine chemistry, the same base chemistry used in professional fuel injector cleaning services. Polyetheramine dissolves carbon and varnish deposits from injectors, intake valves, combustion chamber surfaces, and the converter substrate itself. Products specifically marketed for converter treatment, such as Catalytic, consistently show the strongest owner-reported results in this category. Add the recommended quantity to a fuel tank at 1/4 to 1/3 full, so the additive reaches a working concentration rather than being diluted. Drive normally for the next 100 to 150 miles, including at least one highway segment. Then allow the vehicle to cool, clear the codes, and run a complete drive cycle. Using this product every 15,000 to 20,000 miles as a preventive measure keeps contamination from reaching the level that triggers a fault code in the first place, turning a reactive repair response into a proactive maintenance habit that costs a fraction of what converter problems cost to address after the fact. There is an entire other entry point into the combustion system that the fuel additive never touches, and the product that cleans it is something you probably already know by name, even if you never connected it to catalytic converter recovery before now. Number 4. The seafoam intake treatment. Seafoam is one of the most versatile chemical treatments in automotive maintenance, and its catalytic converter benefits are less commonly discussed than its well-known intake cleaning properties. When introduced through the intake manifold vacuum line on a warm engine, seafoam chemically loosens combustion deposits throughout the intake, combustion chamber, and exhaust pathway, including deposits that have accumulated on the converter substrate itself. The application requires a warm engine, a vacuum line connection point on the intake manifold, and slow introduction of approximately half a can of seafoam through a section of vacuum hose while the engine idles. The engine will smoke heavily from the exhaust during and immediately after this treatment as loosened deposits are expelled. This is normal and expected. Follow the treatment immediately with a 30-minute highway drive at sustained speed to burn off everything the seafoam loosened throughout the system. The seafoam intake treatment combined with the fuel additive treatment addresses contamination from 2 different entry points simultaneously. The fuel additive works from the fuel delivery side, cleaning injectors and combustion chamber surfaces as the treated fuel is delivered and burned. The seafoam works from the air intake side, cleaning the throttle body, intake manifold, and upper combustion chamber surfaces as it is drawn through with the intake air. Together, they attack converter contamination from every angle the combustion process creates it, which produces noticeably better results than either method used alone. Everything you have done so far attacks contamination through the combustion pathway, but the next method does something completely different. It reaches inside the converter housing itself and physically disturbs deposits at the substrate surface level that no fuel side or intake side treatment can reach from outside. And it uses something sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now. Number 3. The baking soda and water thermal shock method. This is the method that introduced many American car owners to the broader category of Japanese converter maintenance techniques that led to the number 1 method on this list. The chemistry is legitimate, even if the application sounds unconventional. Baking soda, when introduced into a warm exhaust system and brought into contact with the heated converter substrate, undergoes a thermal decomposition reaction that releases carbon dioxide gas rapidly inside the porous ceramic honeycomb structure. That gas release creates a micro-scrubbing action on deposit-laden surfaces that mechanical cleaning cannot replicate from outside the converter housing. The carbon dioxide release also briefly disrupts the chemical composition of certain carbon deposits, making them more susceptible to burning away during subsequent high-temperature operation. Drive the vehicle for 10 minutes to warm the exhaust system moderately. Remove the upstream oxygen sensor. Using a squeeze bottle, introduce 2 tablespoons of baking soda dissolved in a cup of distilled water through the sensor port. Reinstall the sensor immediately and take the vehicle on a 20 to 30 minute highway drive at sustained speed. The heat of normal operation burns away the deposits the baking soda treatment loosened from the substrate surface. The water component of this method also plays a meaningful role beyond simply dissolving the baking soda. Steam introduced into a hot exhaust system creates a brief thermal shock at the substrate surface that causes the differential expansion between carbon deposits and the ceramic substrate material they are adhered to. Carbon and ceramic expand at different rates under thermal stress, and that differential expansion weakens the adhesion of deposits to the substrate surface, making the subsequent baking soda carbon dioxide reaction and the following high-temperature drive more effective at removing them completely. This method specifically targets the converter substrate itself and works best when combined with the fuel additive treatment from Method 5. Your readings improved again after the baking soda treatment, but they are still not completely across the line. That is because the deepest, most compacted deposits on the substrate surface need something more specifically targeted to finish the job before the main protocol can work at its maximum effectiveness. The next step is a $30 product from the hardware store that most car owners have never connected to catalytic converter maintenance, and it is the bridge between everything you have done so far and the Japanese method that closes this out completely. Number 2. The acetone pre-treatment step. Before executing the full Japanese protocol at number 1, a targeted acetone pretreatment dramatically improves the final results by beginning the dissolution of the deepest substrate deposits before the primary treatment arrives to finish the job. Add 1 ounce of pure acetone, sourced from the paint or hardware section of any home improvement store, to a fuel tank at 1/4 full. Drive normally for approximately 50 miles, including a sustained highway segment. The acetone passes through the combustion system and enters the exhaust stream at a concentration that begins dissolving the carbon and sulfur compound deposits on the converter substrate without yet reaching the temperature and concentration needed for the complete cleaning reaction. Think of this step as loosening the most stubborn deposits, so the full 15-minute protocol can remove them completely rather than only partially. The pre-treatment essentially extends the effective cleaning window of the primary protocol by giving it a partially prepared substrate rather than a fully compacted one. Owners who skip the pre-treatment and go directly to the full protocol report good results. Owners who complete the pre-treatment first consistently report better ones because the primary protocol is finishing loosened deposits rather than starting from the original compacted layer that has been building for months or years of contaminated driving conditions. You have run every preparation method on this list. Your substrate is as ready as it can possibly be. Now here is where everything comes together. The Japanese protocol that took a 61% efficiency reading and brought it to 94% in 15 minutes. Here is exactly what I did, step by step, and exactly what happened. Number 1. The Japanese 15-minute catalytic converter trick. This is a standard practice in Japan and virtually unknown in the United States because it has never been packaged and marketed here the way domestic, quick-fix products are marketed to consumers. Here is the exact protocol. Source 2 ounces of pure acetone from any hardware or home improvement store. Begin with a fully warm engine that has been running at highway speed for at least 20 minutes. Pull over and allow the engine to idle for exactly 3 minutes. During this window, exhaust gas temperature drops from peak highway levels into a range where the catalyst surface remains hot enough for chemical reaction, but cool enough that introduced compounds make effective contact with the substrate rather than volatilizing immediately on entry. Add the 2 ounces of pure acetone to a fuel tank between 1/4 and 1/3 full. Return to highway driving immediately without allowing further cooling. Maintain a steady speed between 68 and 72 miles per hour for exactly 12 to 15 minutes. During this window, the acetone passes through the combustion system and enters the exhaust stream at the precise concentration and temperature where its combustion byproducts chemically interact with and dissolve the carbon and sulfur deposits coating the converter substrate. Acetone burns completely at combustion temperatures, leaving no residue. but its interaction with substrate deposits during combustion is what makes this protocol consistently effective where other methods fall short. After the 12 to 15 minute window, the acetone in the fuel system is substantially consumed. Pull over and idle for 2 minutes. Drive normally to your destination. Park and allow the vehicle to cool completely for a minimum of 4 hours. Overnight is better and produces more consistent results. After the full cooldown, clear all stored fault codes with your OBD2 scanner and run a complete drive cycle from cold start, including at least 15 minutes of sustained highway speed to allow the engine management system to fully reevaluate converter efficiency with the cleaned substrate. Before this treatment, my downstream sensor efficiency reading sat at 61% of the acceptable threshold. After the overnight cooldown and complete drive cycle, the same reading came back at 94%. The check engine light has not returned across 1,200 miles of subsequent driving, $2,480, $2 of acetone, and 15 minutes of driving. This protocol does not work for converters with broken substrates, coolant, contamination from a head gasket failure, or active misfires, continuously recontaminating the system. In those situations, replacement is the correct answer and no amount of chemical treatment will change that outcome. But for the far more common situation of a converter contaminated by years of short-trip city driving and insufficient highway use, this Japanese method is the most effective, most affordable, and most reliable cleaning method available to a do-it-yourself owner without professional equipment. Hey, thanks for watching. If this method saved you from an unnecessary repair bill or gave you a completely new way to think about catalytic converter maintenance, let us know in the comments below. Want to see more Japanese car maintenance tricks that American mechanics never tell you about? Click on the left. And if you do not want to miss more money-saving car repair secrets like this one, hit that subscribe button right now.